Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Friday, November 21st. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and Matt Robinson with you, ready to break down the Friday NHL card with 4 games on tap. A big Thursday night. It's funny because we've been battling, being under the weather the last couple days and not feeling our best, feeling like shit. Well, unfortunately, a lot of my bets in the NHL last night were shit. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Not the greatest night overall when it was... excuse me, when it was all said and done. I think when you look at it last night with the NHL card, Montreal was disappointing. That's where it starts with me. When you give up the first goal like they did in that game against Washington, it's very, very difficult now to keep defending Samuel Montembeault. It just continues to be issues with him. You just can't give up the first goal of the game. When you're a struggling team, you got to get ready and have your teams back right at the beginning of a game. Ovechkin gets on the board early, puts Montreal right away behind the 8 ball a little bit. And like I said, it was just they were chasing the game from that point on. But give credit to Washington. That was a dismal spot for them back-to-back after playing Edmonton the night before. And they did find a way to get the job done. So credit to the Capitals. But Montembeault got rightfully pulled in that game for Jakub Dobeš. Montreal's defending has to be a little bit better too, but yeah, they're in one. They're struggling right now. The Canadians, there's no doubt. Good news is I had the over, so we got something out of that game at least. But that was a wonderful spot for Montreal, and it turned out, they were let down by some shoddy defending. A big night from Ovechkin, and obviously a lot of good or porous goaltending, I should say, from the Montreal side of things there in that game last night. When you look at some of the other games that we saw on the Thursday board, I thought the Leafs, again, in a losing effort, played solidly. We cashed the draw in that game, but it is Columbus getting the 3-2 win there. Islanders, how about them? Wow. End of a road trip. Already had been a really good road trip, especially after beating Dallas, and that was a crazy ending, with the Rantanen Romanov incident, the goal that got called back to allow the Islanders to get out of there with the win. I thought it was a vulnerable spot for the Islanders, and all they do is they put the boots to Detroit 5-0 last night in that game. And Ilya Sorokin's one of the hottest goaltenders going in the NHL right now. He had a sub-2 goals against in his last 5 starts going into last night, and then he tacks a shutout onto it. So very impressive stuff for the Islanders and for Sorokin there. Florida, 1-0 shutout win against New Jersey last night. What a bounce back from Bobrovsky, who, despite beating Vancouver, did give up 5 goals in that game to the Vancouver Canucks. So 1-0 shutout win there for the Panthers. The Captain Obvious draw bet of the day. I think we all liked it. Blues and Flyers. It got there, and the Philadelphia Flyers get a 3-2 overtime win there against St. Louis. What a crazy ending in Tampa. This is another game. I added the draw late. Alex had it as well. Oilers and Lightning. And my goodness, if you're Edmonton, that's heartbreaking. That's gut-wrenching. You're playing a great road game in a brutal spot. We talked about it. 6th game in 9 nights. Back-to-back after getting bombed by Washington. You're up 1-0 the whole game. And unfortunately, my guy, when I did sprinkle a few bucks on him to score in his return, Nick Paul, welcome back, ties the game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then what an ending. Edmonton looks like they've got the win. Jack Roslovic's got a wide-open 2x4 to put the puck, to deposit it in the back of the net. Somehow he hits. Now, Vasilevsky, incredible save, but he had a wide-open, gaping, yawning cage. All you got to do is hit the open part, and somehow he shot it right into the pad of Vasilevsky. Still a tremendous save. And then right back down the other way, Jake Gensel with the breakaway and puts it past Cal Pickard for the overtime winner. Very, very painful loss for Edmonton. Deserved 2 points. Great gutsy road effort. To lose in overtime 2-1. Very, very disheartening. I thought I was live for a bit with that plus 390 draw with the Rangers and the Avs. We were 3-3 at one point in the third period, but Colorado kind of wore down the New York Rangers late, pulled away, and ended up getting a 6-3 win there over the Rangers. Vegas, Utah's struggles. Wow, the bottom has fallen out for the Utah Mammoth. Another loss last night, 4-1 to Vegas. Ottawa beats Anaheim 3-2. Not totally unexpected. Ottawa's on this big rest, hadn't played since Saturday, starting a road trip. Figured it was a pretty good spot for them, even though Anaheim was at home. They were on a back-to-back. And the Senators, a late goal from Jake Sanderson for the 3-2 win there in that game. And Shane Pinto got on the board as well for Ottawa in that victory. The Dallas Stars beat Vancouver 4-2, but the streak is over. An under for Vancouver. Boy, it didn't look like it early. My gosh, it was 2-2 after the first period. And somehow, unfortunately, that game barely stays under the total. I did have Dallas team total over 3.5 too, but I had more on the full game over. So that was kind of frustrating in the end. But still 10-1 is the run for Vancouver to the over in their last 11 games. And boy, Jason Robertson, get the fire hydrant out. Put him out. He's on fire right now. I mean, my goodness, he just can't be stopped. Yeah. He gets on board again. And what an unreal goal last night by Mikko Rantanen in the third period to put that game away. Spinorama, backhand shelf. Really? What an unbelievable goal that was. No chance, obviously, for Lankinen. One of the more beautiful goals you will see. And 4-2 there for Dallas. And I saved this game for the end. Seattle beating Chicago 3-2. Down 2-0 going into the third. Chicago had played a really good 2 periods. Now, first of all, this is twofold. One is Chicago deserves some blame. That was a horrible period. Got to play better than that with a 2-0 lead on home ice. But you're still up the game is still tied 2-2 at the time. Connor Bedard is a breakaway. I think on the replay, it looks like he got slashed. It's not a huge slash, but it looked like a slash. So it probably should have been a penalty. But regardless of whether you think it was a penalty or not, because it was close, I think it could have been a penalty. I'm not actually losing my mind over the non-slash. I'm losing the non-slashing call. I'm losing my mind over the decision by a referee who clearly thinks people have paid money to see him do his job, that says, I'm going to be the great show here at the United Center tonight, that says, I'm going to give Connor Bedard a 2-minute unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in a 2-2 tie hockey game with 3 minutes left, and put a team on the power play, knowing that if they score on that said power play, they could win the hockey game. Can't happen. You have to take time and game situation in mind and take the temperature of the damn game. Okay, you can't do that in that spot. What, you think you're, God on the ice or something? That you're going to be the one that's going to just swing this game in one team's favor. And by the way, unless Connor Bedard is ripping every member of that referee's family and just F-bomb this left and right. I think he said one F-bomb, and it was as he was going, to the box. Just absolutely ridiculous that the referee in that moment decided. It's first of all, I don't think he said anything to warrant that a 2-minute unsportsmanlike conduct. And by the way, have some fucking, don't be so soft. If you're a referee, do you know how many bad things and just in the heat of the moment, nasty shit players will say to referees over a call they don't agree with? But the referees that are the best in the sport, they've got the fucking balls and guts and the just the stones to, what? Even if he's ripping me and carving me out, I'm going to look the other way because I don't want to be a factor in deciding the hockey game. And they'll have enough guts, to let it slide. You only, to me, give out a 2-minute unsportsmanlike conduct if it's a physical, like if he makes physical contact with the referee or there's a push or something. Okay, then I could see it. If he's like ripping your members of your own family or whoever, if it's like personal, as far as the criticism that the player gives to the ref in that circumstance, yeah, okay. And maybe even in a 2-2 game at that point, maybe I'll sign off on a 2-minute unsportsmanlike, but none of what Bedard did was warranted for a 2-minute unsportsmanlike. So that's what angered me. You can go back and forth all day, all night, I think, about whether it should have been a slash or not. So I think that's debatable. Yes, it was a slash. It was a light one, but I think it was. But that's not the issue for me that got me upset about it. It's this unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that this referee gives for minuscule comments from Bedard in a 2-2 game late in the third period. And you're giving a team a power play for something like that in a 2-2 game late in the third period, knowing that that could win the game. And sure enough, they scored on that power play, and Seattle gets a 3-2 win. And Jeff Blashill talked about it perfectly, exactly what I said. Unless he is super personal with what he is saying to the ref about that non-slashing call, you let that slide. You have to be better than that. You can't be that soft. That's soft as baby shit to give someone an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty over something like that. Totally absurd and a very unfortunate end to Chicago. Now, I'm not letting the Blackhawks completely off the hook. They got what they deserved. They had a horrible third period. You can't play like that with a 2-0 lead at home. But that was a big proponent in what ended up resulting in a loss for the Blackhawks, a totally unnecessary, ridiculous, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty given to Connor Bedard. I know Alex has some thoughts on it. So, Alex, the floor is yours.
Yeah, you covered it well in the sense of talking about with the ref and how you cannot make a call in that spot to affect the outcome of the game. Now, Bedard's frustration has stemmed over not just from throughout that night, but for really the last 2 fucking years of where he's been getting hacked and whacked and slashed and elbowed and banged up against the glass and the boards and hit in the face, hit in the lip, and all kind of calls haven't been made. Okay? That was happening at least 3 or 4 times before we even get into the third period in this game last night. But then you finally get to the third period. I actually have no problem with the non-call on the slash, because it's the same thing as giving the unsportsmanlike conduct. You don't want that call to affect the game in that spot. Let them play. So my issue with that was, okay, don't call that slash because you haven't called it all night, but definitely don't call the unsportsmanlike conduct all because he said you missed the fucking slash. I've watched that tape about 25 times on my phone last night after when he's skating back, Bedard, after he gets hit, he skates up and almost bumps into the referee and goes, you missed the fucking slash. That's not warranted of an unsportsmanlike conduct. He didn't say anything like he said about his family or his kids or anything even more derogatory than you often hear. One simple F-bomb, it wasn't enough to warrant a 2-2 in a 2-2 game late, a 2-minute unsportsmanlike conduct. It just simply isn't. And like you said, the Hawks played like shit in the second period. And that's something that we've seen happen at times throughout the year, where they've had good first periods and then they aren't able to capitalize and keep that momentum rolling in the second period. You let Seattle get back into that game. That should have been a game to go to overtime last night. And then you decide what happens from there. They lose 3-2 in overtime, so be it. But you should not give away a game to any team in that spot. And if you had called the slash, you probably would have been giving away the game too, because you hadn't been calling that all fucking night. Consistency is the issue with these referees. Be consistent with the calls. And Connor Bedard gets slashed all the fucking time. He gets whacked all the fucking time. Either call it or don't. But you've been missing it all night, and you missed the most egregious one right in front of you. And then he bitches about it, and you give him 2 minutes. It's like you said, Ian said it, soft as baby shit. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. And kudos to Blashill. He kept his calm, but he also said his mind and said, well, yeah, if it had been personal, then okay. But I didn't hear it. And he knows good and fucking well it wasn't personal. Everybody in that building knew it wasn't personal. Okay? But this asshole took it personally and cost the Hawks 2 points. And an important 2 points at that, mind you, as you look at the standings right now, and Seattle's now in front of Chicago with that game. That game might loom large, possibly in March and April, the way the season's going right now.
Yep, you never know.
You never know. You never know. It's just ridiculous. You cannot have referees making calls that change the course of the game like that. Yep. And like I said, in my opinion, there should have been no call either way. Don't call the slash. Don't call the unsportsmanlike conduct, because you weren't calling him getting slashed all fucking night when you should have been.
Yep. That's 100%. We're in agreement with that. Yeah, but Hal, Chicago gets half the blame too for losing that game. That's a bad third period. It's a terrible job by them in the third period.
The second and the third, they lost the momentum.
Yep. They stopped skating. It's almost like they've had 2-0, and they had a great first 2 periods. That's what's frustrating. You got to win that game when you have 2 great periods to start that game. But the third was so bad, and the lead was already gone when that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty was gone. But like I said, it's You just can't put that. You just can't give that penalty out at that moment. But Chicago was not good in the third, so they deserve some blame too for the loss. Matt, your thoughts on what we saw last night? Your Stars getting it done, obviously.
Yeah, nice win for Dallas. Won't spend too much time on Chicago since I think you guys pretty much covered everything. It was interesting in my team group chat. Like, we get frustrated with refs in men's league and guys will get a 2-minute penalty, but those guys are making $25 to ref a game at 10:30 on a Wednesday night. So I feel like if you're an NHL official, you've got to have a little tougher skin. So that was pretty wild to see at that level for sure. But yeah, overall, pretty good night. One of my premium plays was Caps Montreal over, which obviously was 0% of sweat. Had that game on at the bar, and goals were early and often in that one. So cool to see Ovi get another hat trick. Obviously, it took him a while to get that first goal of this season, but then, he's been kind of on a rampant pace since. So it'll be a sad day when Ovi decides to retire, which sounds like it'll be after this year. Guys have changed their mind before, but he's obviously still at a level he can score goals in this league. So cool to see him get the hat trick. Had a couple overs come up short. I think I was on Detroit and the Islanders over. Obviously, the Islanders did their part in that one. I expected a little more out of Detroit. And then, yeah, obviously big focus on the Stars game. I had their team total over 3.5 and 4, so got a hit push there. I actually was on the over at 6, so it wasn't a loss, but, obviously that Rantanen goal, which to touch on that was pretty incredible. I told Ian last night, obviously I wasn't at the game, but a game that I watched in real time, that might have been one of the best goals I've ever seen in my 32 years of watching hockey. I mean, to put it in that tight of a hole, on the backhand while moving, it's pretty impressive. So was thankful for that one to get me to the push on the over. Obviously a good road win for Dallas. I mean, when you get outshot by a team on the road, you had the lead early twice, you give it back up. It's nice to see him kind of battle through that, get that third goal there in the midway through the third period. I forget the timing on that one. Yeah, right about halfway through the third period, Blackwell goes down, sort of a breakdown for Vancouver and is able to bury. And then obviously Mikko gets that sort of the nail in the coffin. I mean, there was still, I think, 1:40 left maybe in the game. So obviously not fully over, but, you get a 2-goal lead with 1.5 minutes left. You win most of those games. So overall, solid night. Happy with the Stars win. Looking forward to tonight. Pretty small card. There's a couple past games on the card for me pregame, but still a couple good looks that I like. And so I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, and Matt's headed straight out of town right after this show for roller hockey tournaments. So he'll be in flight on the old Bird later on in the day. So I know he's looking forward to that. All right, 4 games on tap tonight. We'll begin with the aforementioned. We just talked quite a bit about them. The Chicago Blackhawks taking on the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo minus 180 home favorites, 6 the total in this game. You look at this price and the first thing you see is, wow, Buffalo minus 180. The situation's definitely factored in. There's no doubt. Obviously, it's a back-to-back for the Blackhawks. It's Buffalo, rested and coming off a typical Buffalo game where they look so good against Edmonton and then they just have an absolute debacle against an inferior team in their very next game against Calgary, losing 6-2. It's just so typical of Buffalo Sabres hockey. You have a great win against Edmonton, and then you lose to one of the worst teams in the NHL, Calgary, 6-2 in your next game. So that's definitely got to be frustrating for everyone involved with the Sabres, but that's been a common occurrence for them over the years. Obviously, with this being a back-to-back, little bit of a tricky spot here for the Blackhawks, and it will be, obviously, we expect Arvid Soderblom in net here on the back-to-back. Andrei Burakovsky already ruled out. He left the game last night against Seattle due to injury, so they will be without him for this game tonight, still without Dickinson, Foligno as well. It sounds like Ukko Pekka-Luukkonen and Pickle Peppers is going to start here for the Buffalo Sabres. And I don't know if I can find one game where he started this year that's been a good start. He's really had a tough time. He's given up just a back-breaking, wretched goal every time. The goal that Montembeault gave up that made it 3-1 Washington last night and got him pulled? It was a horrible goal. He has to stop that, period. And he didn't. And Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, UPL has given up at least one of those type of goals, it seems like, every game that he's been in net for the Buffalo Sabres. So I don't trust him right now with the way he's playing. I like over 6. And last time they played in Buffalo, these teams, it was 6-2, went over the total. I could see more of the same here tonight. I know the Blackhawks have played at times some lower scoring under hockey. I think it get a little messy tonight. Back-to-back, little fatigue as well. I could see some mistakes, really both ends. Buffalo is very capable of making miscues defensively, as evidenced by giving up 6 goals at home to Calgary. That's pretty hard to do. And yet the Buffalo Sabres managed to give up 6 the other night to Calgary. So I like this over 6 minus 120. Don't trust either netminder. More so Luukkonen, obviously. Soderblom's been solid at times. I just worry about the defense in front of him. I think it could be a little bit of a fatigue night on D for this Chicago team. Plus, Buffalo's going to want to come out storming after the debacle against the Flames. And the one thing about Buffalo is they've been reasonably competitive on home ice. So the bet I like the most is over 6. But I'm going to sprinkle 2 on the Blackhawks team total over 2.5. I mean, asking them to score 3, I think Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's given up 3 in almost every start this year. So asking the Blackhawks to get 3, I like that. I'm not as crazy about the money line, plus 150. I did take a small piece of it because I could see this being 4-3 Buffalo. Quite honestly, tonight, it wouldn't shock me. It is a tough spot for the Blackhawks. The money line's the least favorite of my 3 bets on this game. I like the team total more, and most of all, that full game over. But at plus 150, did have to get involved for a little something on Chicago at this price, despite the negative back-to-back spot. Alex, what do you think here? Chicago, Buffalo.
So I bet this before the Seattle game last night. And I got plus 150. I just thought, once again, this is a crazy price. Where are we now backing Buffalo minus 180 just because they got a win over Edmonton, who actually sucks now, and a 5-4 overtime win against Detroit? Like now they warrant being 180. I get it's the Hawks on the second night of a back-to-back. This is also a misadjustment for Soderblom. They're still not adjusting his prices correctly. So this was a good value at plus 150, but I like the team total a lot more. Over 2.5 minus 125. You can get a flat 3 at MGM plus 130, like both of those. I think we're going to see goals. I think we're going to see a pissed off Hawks team come out. And like I said, the total makes sense, but I'm actually going to wait. I'm going to wait for the over by effective game. Over 1.5, which hasn't been the most profitable spots with the Hawks. But like you said, second night of back-to-backs. I don't think should be a whole lot of fatigue here. We're talking about a 90-minute flight. I don't think they were worried about it in any sort of way or fashion. It's Buffalo, for crying out loud. But I do think that we see where, Soderblom is susceptible to giving up a goal early. UPL, like I said, certainly susceptible to giving up some soft goals. So I'm going to wait for a 1.5 at a plus price. I'm going to try and get a 5.5 over the full game. You have to check Patreon. I will have a bunch of things Connor Bedard related. I think he has a night tonight. And there's another player that I also like, and that would be my bargain bin.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, of course. Like anybody with Chicago. Blashill was a little miffed after the game. So was Connor Bedard, no question. Yeah, first goal in 7 straight games. That was Charlie R. is what I call him.
I would be on that. I would be on first goal, first period tonight.
Yep. Yeah. I'm going to sprinkle on that too. Why not? They've scored the first goal in 7 straight games, Chicago. So scoring the first goal plus 115, why not? And by the way, with these teams on the back-to-back, we've said this all along, they're stronger in the first period, and then often they get maybe a little more vulnerable as the game goes on. But as is the case with most teams on the back-to-back, first period is often their best period. Look at Edmonton last night. Scored right away on a back-to-back against Tampa Bay. Perfect example. Maddie, what do you think here? Chicago, Buffalo.
Yeah, this game lines up well for a little same game parlay because I want to be at 5.5. So I'll probably throw first period and full game over 5.5. Should get a nice plus price, maybe plus 120, plus 130. I haven't looked exactly, but that's the way I lean here. I could see taking a shot on Chicago just given last night's results and everything that happened. Buffalo getting the rest factor. I kind of go both ways. So I think I'll stay off the sides in this one, but I do have sort of an interesting prop in this one that I'll talk about at the end of the show. That's a little unique just given that it's a short card tonight. So
there we go. Good stuff. All right. Next up, we've got Minnesota, Pittsburgh minus 125, home favorite, 6 the total here in this game. Not a whole lot here. I mean, we all kind of like Minnesota as a home dog the other night against Carolina. They got it done thanks to the brick Jesper Wallstedt. He was absolutely outstanding in that game. We won't see him tonight, though. Philip Gustafsson is going to get the start here for the Minnesota Wild. Arturs, she loves you. Yeah. Arturs, she loves for Pittsburgh. A very noticeable growing injury list here for Pittsburgh. Well, we know that Hartman and Rossi and Tarasenko remain out for Minnesota, but, Brazeau, Achari, Philip Hollander, Caleb Jones, Ville Koivunen, Ricard Raquel, Ebony, and St. Ivany. He's also out for Pittsburgh. So a lot of injuries there on the Pittsburgh side of things as well. So they're a little bit banged up. This is a draw for me. You got East versus West. Probably a competitive, close game. We saw, obviously, Minnesota go past regulation. This is not a side I want to bet. This is not a total I want to bet. I could see the total going either way in this matchup as well, but I like the draw. Alex, Wild, Penguins.
There we go. Yeah, this definitely feels like a draw spot. And it seems like Friday night Wild games on the road. There's just something about those games where they just feel like they're really tight, really close, and end up going to overtime or a shootout. So I did sprinkle in the draw here. I got plus 330. Don't have an overtime goal score. I'm not sure who would win it if it goes past regulation, but do like it with the draw at plus 330.
Minnesota's over the years too, whether it's Hines or even going back before that to the other coaches that they had previously. When they get on a bit of a surge and a streak to the draw, it can go for a while. And they're starting to heat up with the draws. 3 of the last 4 now for Minnesota have gone past regulation. 2 of the last 4 for Pittsburgh have gone past regulation as well. So this is definitely a game with some draw indicators that make sense. Matt, what do you think here? Minnesota, Pittsburgh.
So I actually do have a play in this game that I've been on since yesterday. I do kind of like the overs, given that it's Gustafsson. Wall's been so good for them. So I wasn't surprised to see him go back to Gustafsson, but I think his leash is getting shorter and shorter, given the streak that's going on in Minnesota. But my play coming into the game was actually Pittsburgh at home. Minnesota's on a 3-game heater. What I talked about in my write-up was, elite teams don't really look at, okay, we're on a 3-game win streak. Good teams tend to look at that and go, okay, we can take a game off here and there. So I don't think Minnesota's quite in that top echelon yet. They don't have a lot of playoff experience. I think, as you get on a win streak for those sort of, I don't want to say middle of a pack team, because Minnesota can be a good team. They can be a bad team. They're kind of right there in the mix, but I think sometimes you get on 2 or 3 games in a row and it's easy to take a night off. So I just think, given Pittsburgh, how they're playing, their special teams right now has been incredible. I think they're top 5 in both categories, obviously with that number 1 power play. I just think at home, Friday night in Pittsburgh, I think Pittsburgh pulls away. So minus 125 is a good enough price for me to take a shot with Pittsburgh here. That'll be my main play. I'm probably going to tune into this game since it's on NHL Network, and I'll be traveling. So I may end up live betting this one on the over situation, depending on how the pace looks early on. Because I think asking this game with these 2 offenses to get to 6, I don't think that would be, asking too much. So initially, I'm going to take a shot with Pittsburgh, but I'll look at the overs in game.
And I get what you're saying with Minnesota too. They're a team that you feel, when they get on a win streak, or even when they get on a losing streak, they kind of read their press clippings a little bit and kind of, they can ride that momentum a little high and then all of a sudden kind of fall off the cliff. Or even if they're losing, they kind of get into a lull and all of a sudden they kind of bust out of that shell. So I get what you're saying. They're in that range where they ride their emotions a little higher on win and lose streaks than some of the better teams.
Well, and it's a bad example this season because they're obviously having a really slow start and have numerous injuries. But you look at like Florida the last couple of seasons. If they're on a 2-game losing streak, I don't feel that they're going to lose that next game. If they're on a 2-game win streak, I'm not like betting against them because, they won the last 2. Like they're every game's kind of a fresh reset when you're that caliber of a team. But when you're kind of a young team, you're kind of in that middle pack area, it's easy. Oh, we've won 3 in a row. We can take Friday night off and start looking at Sunday's game, whatever it may be. Yeah. So just something, when I noticed Minnesota was on a 3-game, that I leaned Pittsburgh. But
no, I think the Wild are actually a good example of that, because the dichotomy of their season so far, October was brutal, and here they are having a fantastic 7-1-1 here in November. So they're riding high now, and this may be the time, like saying, to buy. This is the time to kind of maybe sell on Minnesota when they have that kind of momentum, because they just historically don't keep that up. This doesn't seem like a team that's going to go and want to win 20 of their next 30 games. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're also 3-5 on the road, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Minnesota, 7 home wins, but only 3 so far here on the road to this point. There are some props I like. I'm going back to the well with Danila Yurov. 2 points or back-to-back games with a point. He's still up there on the top line, so still some really good value between Zuccarello and Kaprizov for him. Boldy's obviously been very good of late on a 5-game point streak. Maybe a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be this way, but Dan Muse moved him up there, I think, a game or 2 ago. Connor Dewar has been playing with Crosby on the top line the last couple of games here for Pittsburgh. He's also a former member of the Minnesota Wild. So we got former player angle, and he's playing right now, potentially again tonight, with Crosby and Rust on the top line. So why not a little Connor Dewar sprinkle here for the Minnesota Wild if he maintains that spot up there on the top line. All right, Carolina, Winnipeg. We've got Carolina minus 150, road favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. Carolina off the, they deserve probably to win that game. Let's be real. I mean, they outshot Minnesota double. Wallstead was absolutely outstanding. Ended up helping Minnesota pull out a 4-3 shootout win despite the run of play going against them for a good chunk of that game. Certainly think Carolina's got it in them to bounce back here against Winnipeg. And it looks like the big news out of Winnipeg is Connor Hellebuck being shut down and out 4 to 6 weeks for the Winnipeg Jets. And one thing I'm wondering now moving forward is, does this affect his candidacy for the U.S. Olympic team? I would say no. I would still think he's going to be on that team. But what if this is one of these deals, and we see it often, where 4 to 6 weeks turns into 2 to 3 months? I've seen that before. You know how many times I've seen 4 to 6 weeks and it's not 4 to 6 weeks, it ends up being longer? I mean, this does open the door for, is Connor going to be in form? And is Connor Hellebuck going to be ready to rock at 100% for February when the Winter Olympics are going on for Team USA? So, like I said, something to keep an eye on. Obviously, he'll be missed, and we're going to see a lot of Eric Comrie coming up here for the Winnipeg Jets, including in this game tonight. That being said, he's had a solid year, 4-1, 2.6 goals against, 908 save percentage for the Winnipeg Jets, 5-2 win against Columbus when he was in net for the Jets the other night. He's certainly been better than maybe a lot of people would think, no question about that. So like I said, it's his net right now, because I know they called up from the Manitoba Moose Thomas Milic, but he's obviously someone that's only going to get spot duty. This is going to be Eric Comrie now getting the majority of the starts moving forward in net for the Winnipeg Jets. I'm going to go with Carolina here. I actually got a good thing. I took a piece of Carolina overnight because there's been some movement. I got, I think, minus 135 with Carolina. It's moved up a little bit even since then. Carolina team total over I like in this game as well. This is the floodgates angle that I like to use. Team that could have scored probably 6 goals the other night against Minnesota, against Wallstead. Maybe tonight's the night those chances go in against Winnipeg here. And even though, again, Eric Comrie's been solid, but, you get this Carolina team off a loss. They've been pretty damn consistent, too, when you talk about how off losses, they've played well and they've scored goals. They lost to Vegas 4-1. They scored 5-1 the next game. They lost 6-3 to Vegas. They scored 6 against the Islanders the next game, and they won. They lost 4-1 to Washington, and they scored 4 against Vancouver the next game, and they won. They lost 4-3 to Edmonton. They only scored 3 the next game against Boston, but again, they won. They've been pretty damn good, off losses. There's no doubt. So Carolina money line and team total over split for me in this game. I'm going to wait for some live overs because I think I want to target here a full game over, but not really interested at 6.5. We'll try to wait to see if I can get 6 or better on it. Alex, what do you think here? Carolina, Winnipeg.
Yeah, I got a little piece of Carolina team total over 3.5 plus 104. Like I said, I'll look to grab some stuff live. And we could see Eric Comrie come out and have a good game, right? Next man up mentality, especially when you're talking about a goalie. And he's been playing fairly decent. So he could have a good game and win this. But I will be looking to fade Winnipeg moving forward for the next 4 to 6 weeks. This is not a great goaltending tandem when you take Hellebuck out of the equation. And listen, this is just my personal take and opinion, but it would be absolute franchise malpractice to have Hellebuck out 4 to 6 weeks and then have him go play in the Olympics. If you're actually serious about trying to win something in the postseason this year, that would be a terrible idea. But they're going to do it anyway because of national pride and all this shit. And, spare me with all the Olympic hoopla shit. You shouldn't do that. If this is a guy who's played a lot of fucking minutes of hockey. He's had a lot of injury issues at times. And if he's hurt and missed 4 to 6 weeks, you want him to be fully ready and healthy for the second half run of your season, where now you might have a chance to, make some damage on the Western Conference and win a fucking championship. Not necessarily just, so he can go get a gold medal. But that's, here or there and down the road. As far as this game, I like Carolina. Like I said, I will be looking to fade Winnipeg because I just don't think Comrie, now getting the bulk of the starts, is going to be able to continue the pace he's on. I think we'll see some regression. I don't know anything about this Thomas Milic guy. I have to look up with him, but
he was on a Canadian World Junior team years ago. I do remember him from those years ago. Yeah.
So I will certainly have those updated with the goalie charts and kind of watch some videos, some tape on him. But yeah, Carolina team total for me. Like I said, some live looks.
Comrie's been good, but the reason why I don't mind going against him here is because, well, first of all, Carolina's off a loss, and they just throw everything at the net. Like, he's going to face rubber tonight. He's going to face shot volume that he does not see all the time. Like, he's going to. That's just what Carolina does. They just up the shot on goal volume, and they're going to have, guaranteed 30, 35 shots because that's just what they do. I know Winnipeg's good at limiting shots against in a lot of their games, but, they just gave up 34 shots to Calgary. They could certainly give up 35 plus to Carolina. Look at Carolina's just 47, 31, 38, 36, 32, 45 against Minnesota. They're just a high shots on goal volume team. And so Comrie's going to be busy tonight, in my opinion. Let's see how he handles that kind of a workload and shot volume in this game tonight. Matt, what do you think here? Carolina, Winnipeg.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys were saying, and I do think he's actually still playing pretty well, but it's sort of like the Wedgwood situation. I think Comrie will have a couple good games. He is playing well this season, but when you're talking 6 weeks of hockey, when you're used to playing 15 games a season and you're playing 15 games in 4 weeks, I think Winnipeg will be a team to fade moving forward. I don't disagree with Carolina at all, but I think what I like most in this game is the over, but not at 6.5. I think I'm going to wait, hope we get a couple minutes, and then at least get a 6 there with a decent price. That'll be kind of my key look. I do lean Carolina here, not enough to go minus 150. It's still a good Winnipeg team, and they're still at home. Comrie could, this is his first game as the true starter. Maybe he comes out and has a great game and then, starts to fade in a couple games down the road. So I definitely like the Carolina leans. I'll probably stay off the sides here and just look for a live over.
All right. Brandon Bussey, by the way, going to get the start here tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously, it's been they've got 3 goalies still with the Hurricanes right now at the moment. Freddie Anderson, Pyotr Kochetkov, and Brandon Bussey. They have not sent Brandon Bussey down. You know what that tells me? They know Freddie Anderson is going back on the injury list at some point very soon, probably.
I was about to say they're the only team that really deserves to carry 3 goalies and rotate morale because of the fact that they have a Freddie Anderson and Pyotr Kochetkov, who you worry about his injury status as well. So
that's true.
They're the one team that can make this work.
Yeah, he's starting to become injury plagued too.
Is it Carolina? I mean, Auntie Ronta got hurt everywhere, but then you have Freddie Anderson. You got Kochetkov getting hurt. Who was going back a couple of years? Ever since Cam Ward, basically, they've had some injury issues with goaltenders left and right. So maybe you start wondering, is it a Carolina issue?
Yeah, it might be. I mean, I've always said that about certain teams in the NFL and other sports too, or when there's
Minnesota's another team where the injury issues they had, and they finally corrected them. They did make changes with their medical staff, but Carolina might need to look in that. Medical training might need to be assessed.
You just have to upgrade your medical team. You're right. Just do a better job trying to keep these guys in healthy and whatever regimens you tell these guys to undergo in the off season.
Medical school. Get some new faces in there. Right?
That could be what's required. There's no doubt. As far as props here, Nikolai Ehlers back in Winnipeg, right? How do we not? And like obviously you're not going to get bargain bin on him, but it's an obvious prop. I mean, back to Winnipeg, you know he's going to get the tribute tonight in this game. Back in the peg, all those great years with the Jets. So Nikolai Ehlers props makes a ton of sense here. Jackson Blake's been starting to heat up. Had a great game the other night against Minnesota. So those are some Carolina props potentially to look at here in this game. No question. For Winnipeg, someone mentioned Niederreiter. Of course, this is a guy that also played, if not former team angle, with Carolina for a few seasons many years ago. So you can lean on that if you think Nino Niederreiter might be worth a look here tonight. But definitely Nikolai Ehlers. It's pretty hard not to take props of some kind involving him tonight as he makes his return to the peg. All right, last game. Boston Bruins, Los Angeles Kings. We've got LA minus 200 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. It was our good friend Jimmy Murphy that was very vocal, saying he thought Boston would be a good bet in this spot. I don't know about a good bet, but I know it's minus 200 with the Kings on a back-to-back, finishing a very long road trip and an exhausting final game of that trip last night. If you watched it, my God, the pace was off especially in that overtime. That overtime was bonkers with the Kings and the Sharks last night. San Jose getting the shootout win. I'm going to dabble here, small bets only. First period, full game money line split, Boston. That maybe they pounce early. Marco Sturm was kind of ripping the team's defensive effort against Anaheim the other night. I know it was only 4-3. They were in the game, but he said you just can't have the defensive lapses. You're not going anywhere playing defense like that. And it was the first time really kind of got after the team this year after a loss. So maybe that gets the Bruins going early. I thought they played a heck of an effort. Like they did make defensive miscues and lapses that cost them, but I actually thought they played a pretty solid game against a very good Anaheim team the other night. So like I said, I definitely do not mind looking at a Bruins bet here, and I'm going to go first period, full game split is how I'm going to divvy it up here. I don't mind taking a chance here against the LA Kings as a minus 200 favorite in a spot like this. No question about that. Former Kings assistant coach as well, says Jonathan Davis as well for Marco Sturm. So, like I said, you got that angle playing into it as well. It's also a very, very, very tricky spot for the Kings. That was such a long road trip, and you're on a back-to-back. You're still missing Drew Doughty, which means more minutes for everyone else on the blue line. They did save Kemper for this game, and Kemper's been pretty good lately in net for the Kings. But that being said, still okay with taking a shot here. Boston Bruins, first period, full game, money line split in this game. Alex, final game, Bruins, Kings.
Bruins team total over 2.5 at even money. Bruins money line plus 165. I have the draw at plus 330, and I have Marat Husnudinov to get the overtime game winner at 100-1.
100-1. There you go. Marat Husnudinov, who's still on the top line for the Boston Bruins, as he has been for quite some time. With actually, no, I think they've jigged the lines a little bit. Sturm. It looks like Zacha, Pasternak, Blumel. Blumel scored the last game. Matej Blumel is a great value prop bet right now. Matej Blumel with Zacha and Pasternak could be on that top line for the Boston Bruins. Husnudinov is still on the top six with Geeky and with Alex Steeves. So, like I said, he's still a good bet. Husnudinov's been pretty solid here the last, I would say, week or two for the Boston Bruins. Maddie, anything you like here? Boston, LA.
Honestly, it's a pass game for me. We'll see kind of how the day goes. I am big on, if both the 7 o'clock Eastern time games are 8-4 and 9-3, then, it might be one of those nights where you're looking at overs. But for me, pregame, there's just nothing I'm really looking at. I mean, I would take a shot with Boston. If anything, I'm definitely not laying 200 on LA. But yeah, I mean, there's other looks I like more, so I'll probably this will be a pass for me.
All right, there we go. Good stuff. Matt, I know you're tight for time, so what we'll do is we'll run the ads, and Alex and I will do bargain bin best bet at the end ourselves. We'll first of all, before we get Matt's bargain bin special and best bet, Saturday look ahead, which we like to do with Matt when he joins us on Fridays. Is there anything initially you're leaning toward for this big Saturday NHL card?
I haven't taken a very deep dive, but like just at first glance, I feel like Montreal, Toronto, I'll be on the over, whatever it is. It could be 7. I like the over in that one. Montreal is just on an over tear. That's always an exciting game as well. So I'd probably be on the first period and full game over in that one. Outside of that, anything that sticks out, nothing crazy off the get-go. I think another look that will be probably automatic for me is the first period over in that Ducks-Knights game. Two teams that are generally pretty good to the over. I know the Knights missed the last night, but generally two good teams. The Ducks have been sort of on a little bit of a slide, so I expect them to come out strong at home in that game. But yeah, nothing crazy. I'll be sure to post some picks on Wizard Sports Picks if anyone's interested. I'll probably have a couple picks up today for tomorrow's card, so be sure to check those out. I'll post a tweet with maybe my best bet and bargain bin for tomorrow. But yeah, nothing else right off the hop.
All right, nothing. Yep, good stuff. But yeah, I'm kind of eyeing that over with the Leaf game too. Even though the Leafs are defending better and they've committed to it, and they've had 2 unders now. But it is Montreal, Toronto. Montreal is now 10-1 to the over after that easy one going over the total last night against Washington. So still could see that one maybe being an over. It's a good card. We'll save it all obviously for tomorrow on the Saturday show, which we're definitely looking forward to. Good stuff there. Oh yeah, by the way, Dallas Calgary. Any thoughts initially on that game and the Glenn Gulletson ex-wife tour, as he alluded to? That was hilarious. I got a chuckle out of that when Glenn Gulletson said it's my ex-wife tour because they're doing the Western Canadian swing. He was an assistant in Vancouver, he was an assistant in Edmonton, and he was a head coach in Calgary. So he's coached in all 3 of those. He called it the ex-wife tour. This Western Canadian trip for Gulletson. I got a chuckle out of that.
Yeah, I'm sure the boys will want to play well for that game. I think we'll see kind of there's some guys on the trip that, might play that game, might play Tuesday. We'll see if there's a boost there. I think Jason Robertson goal props are almost like just worth taking right now until it stops. I mean, he's been on an absolute tear. It's like anything that he touches in the offensive zone just ends up in the back of the net. Maybe a little Blake Coleman goal prop. I've seen some rumors around that he's a guy that could get moved, and I feel like, what better place? Dallas could use a second or third line player, a guy that can play on both sides of special teams. Maybe Calgary will eat some of that contract and send Coleman to Dallas for a little run this year. So he'll want to play well. He always does when they play the Stars. His wife's from Dallas as well. So, that should be an angle to look at. I'm sure that Dallas will come in like minus 200 plus, just given how not good Calgary's been this year. So there's probably not a lot of value on sides, although I think the Stars are starting to roll. So if you can get up over 3.5 in that, like anywhere from plus money to like minus 120, minus 125, I think that's worth a look. When they're rolling, 4 goals is not hard to come by for them. So nothing crazy off the hop, but I do think, the Stars will try and play well for goalie, since that's the one team that he was the head coach at, now going up against them. So I think he'll have a little chip on his shoulder for that one.
All right. Bargain bin special tonight for you, Matt. What do you got?
Yeah, I told you I was going to do something a little bit interesting, just given the card. So I was looking into that Chicago-Buffalo game. I have a pretty strong feel that Bedard is going to want a little redemption. He knows what happened last night, all that stuff. So I'm going to, obviously Bedard is not bargain bin material by himself. there's a guy on the other team that I'm a big fan of that's actually on the top line tonight with Alex Tuck and Tage Thompson, named Josh Doan. Put those two together in a same-game parlay, plus 650. So give me Josh Doan, Connor Bedard, anytime goal parlay, plus 650. I think that's a good price. Again, if Chicago scores 2 goals in this game, there's a good chance that Bedard has one of them. And then on the other side, I think Donor is going to want to take advantage of being on that top line. This is a game that, we talked about. I like the first period. I like the full game over. So, let's hope we get 6 or 7 goals in this one. And let's hope Bedard and Donor are two of the guys that pop one in.
All right, there we go. Bargain bin special. Nice little two goal parlay there, or goal parlay for Matt with his bargain bin special of the night for Friday. All right, best bet, Matt. What do you got for that?
So for best bet, I did a little digging. Again, it's a shorter card, so some interesting angles on this one. So the best bet itself is going to be Winnipeg, Carolina, first period over. Carolina off a loss. They're going to want to pop one early. But something I found pretty interesting outside of shouts to Chris Otto, Winnipeg's 8-2 to the first period over, Carolina 6-4. But when you look at the goaltenders, Bussey and Comrie have both played 5 games. They're both 4-1 to first period overs. Bussey, on one hand, in his last 2 starts, there have been 5 goals and 4 goals in the first period. So it may even be worth a little bit of a 2.5 ladder as well. But for my best bet, Winnipeg, Carolina, first period over. I think it's a great look. Trending wise, Carolina off a loss, Hellebuck news. I think it's a great spot to try and get 2 in that first period. So Winnipeg, Carolina, first period over. That'll be my best bet tonight.
All right, there it is. Carolina, Winnipeg, first period over for Matt Robinson with his best bet for this Friday card. Matt, he is up in the air very soon. He's going to be taken off and headed out of town for a roller hockey tournament. So, Matt, safe flight, safe travels. Yeah. Good luck. Kick ass with your team in the tournament. And we'll see you again, obviously, Tuesday. You'll be back with us again.
Yeah. Yep, sounds good. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Everybody, win some bets. There's a big card tomorrow. Some great college football looks this weekend. So make sure and check out Wizard Sports Picks. Where all 3 of us are putting up picks, very consistently. So if I'm ever, MIA from the show for a week because I'm, at a work conference or something, you'll be able to find my picks up there daily. So check it out. Everyone have a great weekend. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, Matty. Safe flight. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.
There he is, the one and only Matt Robinson with us as he is Tuesdays and Fridays right here on the show. And speaking of wizardsportspicks.com, check it out. We're all there. Me, Alex, Matt Robinson. Again, premium picks on a daily basis. Check it out. Big weekend. I mean, what can you say? NFL, second last weekend of college football, regular season, NBA, college basketball, huge NHL slate tomorrow. So perfect time to check it out, wizardsportspicks.com. And, of course, I do the Beyond the Lines video at the YouTube channel for Wizard Sports Picks Thursdays and Sundays. So make sure you check that. 2-1 with the Thursday video, by the way. We had the Sharks as a winner in hockey, and we had Houston in the NFL game last night, outright beating the Buffalo Bills. Couldn't believe they were getting 6 in that game, considering they had only the 2 losses at home for the Houston Texans were by a field goal or less to Denver and Tampa Bay, who are pretty good teams. So I thought that line was out of whack. Buffalo laying 6 on the road, and nice to be able to cash that one on the video for those that check that out. And speaking of checking things out, you should be checking out patreon.com/iceguys, $10 per month. Again, goalie charts, totals charts, all the bonus content is there on the Patreon page. And again, of course, we're going to have very soon our Patreon exclusive live betcast for Patreon members only for the month of November. We're going to announce it the day of. Obviously, it's coming up. It will not be U.S. Thanksgiving Thursday, obviously, but it is coming up. We'll announce it the day of. It'll be a shorter betcast for the early games only, but it will be a Patreon exclusive members only betcast coming up. So definitely get on board as soon as you can if you want to partake in that. Just $10 per month. Your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. So make sure you get on board. $10 per month. Patreon.com/iceguys.
And also check out the Ice Guys store over at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Holidays are coming around the corner. Thanksgiving next week. Christmas will be here soon enough. So it's a great time to shop and get a gift for yourself, for your family, loved one, friend, whomever. Check out the Ice Guys store right now at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, bargain bin special of the night. and best bets coming up for me and Alex right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
Where the kings and queens shop.
Thanks to all our sponsors, including Royal Cannabis. Check them out, royalcannabisshop.com, 20% off with promo code ICEGUYS. All right, bargain bin special of the night. Matt Robinson, you heard his already just a few minutes ago. Alex, we'll go to you. Bargain bin special of the night.
Yeah, head to that Buffalo-Chicago game, and it's a play that would have cashed last night. I think it's live again tonight. Tyler Bertuzzi to get the first goal of the game, plus 1,400. Like I said, I also like first goal, first period with the Hawks. I think they come out hot early. I think they're going to be full of piss and vinegar and steam with how last night ended. And I think Tyler Bertuzzi has a good chance being in front of the net like he always is to get the first goal of the game. So you get that plus 1,400 at FanDuel. Tyler Bertuzzi, first goal, my bargain bin special this Friday night.
There you go. Tyler Bertuzzi, Chicago Blackhawks, first goal for Alex B. Smith with the bargain bin special of the night. I'm going to go with two bargain bin specials for tonight. I'm going to go with Connor Dewar, the former member of the Minnesota Wild, now with the Pittsburgh Penguins. If what I'm seeing is accurate, he's back up with Crosby and Rust again on the top line tonight, and that's plus 550 for Connor Dewar tonight for the Pittsburgh Penguins. At that price, absolutely, it's worth a look. That's my first bargain bin special. My second bargain bin special, we're going to go out to L.A., La La Land, Boston, L.A., Bruins and Kings, and I'm going to go with Matej Blumel. He scored a couple of games ago. It looks like he's going to be up on the top line for Boston tonight, plus 560 for him to find the back of the net. So I think these are great prices with a couple of players that could be featured in top line opportunities tonight for their respective teams. Connor Dewar for Pittsburgh, plus 550, and Matej Blumel for Boston, plus 560 for my bargain bin specials of the night for this Friday NHL slate. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like here for best bet?
Yeah, I like that Blumel look for sure, and hopefully he can contribute to one of three goals for Boston. I'm liking that team total over 2.5 at even money with the Boston Bruins. Like I said, good spot for them, tricky spot for LA coming back home off of a long road trip. That's a spot we tend to usually fade teams on. So I like the Bees to give me 3 goals here. Bruins, team total over 2.5 at even money. My best bet for Friday.
All right, Boston, team total over 2.5. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. My best bet, hopefully better than Montreal was last night. It was very disheartening to see that start, and I knew right away, this doesn't look good. Giving up, and Montembeault really hurt us there, but bounce back hopefully tonight with Chicago, Buffalo. We're going to go over 6, minus 120 with the Blackhawks and the Sabres. I think we're going to see that game have a good chance to go over. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has just not been very good. And you look at most of his games have ended 4-3 in that vicinity, going over the total. I think Buffalo and Chicago, both off some frustrating losses, are going to end up really being a little assertive tonight on the offensive end. Should see some decent pace, and I think both teams can get on the scoreboard and help send that game up and over the total. So we'll go with Chicago, Buffalo, over 6, minus 120 for my best bet for this Friday. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Again, getting better, slowly but surely. I feel it. So hopefully, just brick by brick, we're going to shake this damn illness that we're dealing with. But appreciate the concern from everybody. Hit the like button on the way out. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith and Matt Robinson, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we're back tomorrow on Saturday, noon Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.